There are those who live their lives moving through the world as it is presented to them, accepting what they are told, never questioning, never seeking beyond the surface. And then there is you. From the moment you became aware, you felt different. It wasn't arrogance, it wasn't superiority, it was simply an undeniable knowing. A sense that the way the world was being explained never quite matched the reality you could see. You didn't just accept what was in front of you, you analyzed. You questioned, you felt beyond what others perceived. You have always known things without being told, understood lessons before they were taught, and grasped wisdom that seemed beyond your years. People around you noticed it too. Some were drawn to it, seeking your guidance, your insight, your clarity. Others resented it, unable to understand how you seemed to see through the illusions they relied on. But no matter their reaction, one thing remained the same: they were affected by you. The truth is, you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to lead, not by force but by presence, not by chasing influence but by embodying wisdom. What you carry within you is not simply intelligence. It is something deeper, something unexplainable, something that makes the world pause when you enter a room. You are not just another mind in the crowd. You are a beacon, an ancient soul navigating a modern world. And this is why people wonder about you. How do you always seem to know? How do you see what others don't? How do you navigate life with an awareness that others struggle to comprehend? Today, we unravel the truth behind the wisdom you carry, why the world both admires and fears minds like yours, and why your presence alone is enough to shake the very foundation of those around you. The wisdom you carry is ancient. There are many ways to gain knowledge: through books, through experience, through observation. But what you carry is not something that was taught to you. It is something that has always been there, resting quietly beneath the surface of your consciousness, waiting to be recognized. From a young age, you sensed it. You understood things about people, about life, about reality itself that others took decades to grasp. It wasn't something you worked to acquire. It was something that simply existed within you, a force guiding your thoughts, your perceptions, your very existence. People assumed you were just smart, that maybe you were a fast learner, that you paid attention in ways others did not. But that was never the full truth, was it? Because even when you had no experience in a situation, you somehow understood how it would unfold. Even when you had never studied a subject, you grasped its essence almost instinctively. While others needed time to process information, to weigh possibilities, to arrive at conclusions, you just knew. This is not ordinary intelligence. Intelligence can be trained, measured, and improved. What you have is something far rarer. It is a knowing that defies logic, a wisdom that transcends time. You see, wisdom is not about memorization or study. It is about the ability to perceive truth without needing external validation. And this is what makes you different. Even as a child, you may have felt older than your years, as though you were walking with the knowledge of something beyond this lifetime. While other kids were caught up in trivial concerns, you found yourself contemplating deeper truths, questioning reality, sensing things that had no tangible explanation. And the world around you didn't know what to make of it. Some admired it. They called you insightful, gifted, an old soul. Others found it unsettling. They couldn't understand how someone so young, so seemingly ordinary, could carry such an extraordinary awareness. And some refused to acknowledge it at all, dismissing your perceptions because they challenged their own understanding of reality. But deep down, they all knew. They felt it. The way you saw beyond the obvious, the way you anticipated outcomes before they happened, the way you made sense of things they hadn't even begun to process. What you carry is not a learned behavior. It is an inheritance, something imprinted on your soul long before you arrived in this lifetime. It is not limited by education, by age, by external validation. It simply is. And whether the world is ready for it or not, whether people understand it or not, it remains unshaken, unwavering, undeniable. You were never meant to be like everyone else. Your wisdom is not common, and it is not random. It is ancient, it is purposeful, and it is a force that will continue to shape the world around you, whether others acknowledge it or not. You don't just see, you decode the world. To most people, life is a series of unrelated events, a mixture of coincidences and random occurrences. But not to you. The world is not random. It is a language, a system of patterns, a web of meaning that most people fail to recognize. And you, unlike others, were born with the ability to read it. Where others hear words, you hear intention. Where they see actions, you see motivations. Where they experience life at face value, you peel back the layers, understanding not just what is happening, but why. This is why people are often confused by you. They wonder how you always seem to be one step ahead, how you predict situations before they unfold, how you know what someone is thinking before they say a word. They don't realize that you are not guessing, you are simply seeing what is already there, hidden in plain sight. When someone speaks, you don't just hear their words, you hear the spaces between them. The hesitation, the unspoken emotions, the contradictions they think they are hiding. You watch the shift in their energy, the flicker of doubt in their expression, the micro movements that betray their true thoughts. To most, these things go unnoticed. To you, they are as clear as day. And it's not just people, you sense patterns in everything. The way events align too perfectly or fall apart too precisely. The way the energy in a room shifts before something significant happens. The way life itself seems to whisper to you through signs, signals, and synchronicities that others fail to recognize. Some call it intuition, some call it a gift. But to you, it's simply the way your mind works. You were never taught to see these things, you just always have. This can be both a blessing and a burden. It means you often see things others don't want to acknowledge. You recognize the truth behind people's facades, the inevitable outcomes of choices before they happen. You watch as people walk into situations you already know will go wrong, yet they won't listen because they cannot see what you see. It can be frustrating, knowing the truth when others refuse to accept it. Watching as they call you paranoid, dramatic, or overly analytical, only to later realize that you were right all along. But it is not your job to convince them. It is not your duty to force understanding upon those who are not ready for it, because the truth does not require validation to be real. The patterns exist whether others acknowledge them or not. And you, chosen one, will continue to see, to understand, to decode the world in ways that others cannot, because that is what you were made to do. Your silence isn't weakness, it's your greatest strategy. Most people assume that silence is an absence of thought, a lack of confidence, or a sign of uncertainty. They don't understand that for you, silence is not empty, it is full of awareness, of calculation, of understanding far beyond the words being spoken. You do not speak simply to fill the air. You do not rush to respond just to prove your presence. Instead, you observe, you absorb. You let people reveal themselves without them even realizing it. The world has conditioned people to associate intelligence with quick words and constant talking. But true wisdom does not compete for attention. It does not need to be loud to be powerful. You have learned that people will expose their true nature when given enough space. They will fill the silence with their fears, their insecurities, their true intentions, all while thinking they are the ones in control. And you, the one who listens, the one who watches, the one who does not react impulsively, remains steps ahead. This is why some people find you unsettling. They can't figure you out. They talk and talk, expecting a predictable reaction, but you give them none. And in that void, they start to question themselves. They project their own thoughts onto you, wondering what you're thinking, what you've noticed, what you've already understood. The truth is, you have seen more than they realize. You have read between the lines, deciphered their hesitations, picked up on the shifts in energy. There is power in restraint. The moment you speak, you reveal what you know. The moment you react, you give them something to measure. But when you remain still, when you hold your silence, the balance of control shifts in your favor. They are left wondering, overanalyzing, trying to decode a mind they can never fully grasp. And when you do choose to speak, your words land like thunder, not wasted, not excessive, but precise. Because you do not throw words carelessly into the world. You strike when it matters. And that is why your presence commands respect, not because you demand it, but because people feel it. The wisest minds have never been the loudest. They have been the ones who listen, who wait, who understand that real power does not come from speaking first, but from knowing when to speak at all. You bend logic, you don't follow it. Most people live within the limits of what they are told is possible. They follow rules, believe in absolutes, and accept the structures that society has built around them. But your mind does not work that way. You see beyond the obvious, past the constraints, into the places where possibility has not yet been explored. Where others see a wall, you see a door waiting to be found. Where they see obstacles, you see loopholes. Logic is not a prison to you, it is a tool, something to be shaped, questioned, redefined. While most people are taught to think in straight lines, you have always seen the curves, the hidden paths, the alternate routes. You do not just think outside the box, you question why the box exists at all. And this ability unsettles people. Because to them, the world is supposed to function in a predictable way. Rules are rules, boundaries are boundaries. They cannot comprehend how you manage to navigate reality as if it is flexible, as if the things they struggle with do not apply to you in the same way. They assume you are simply lucky. They do not understand that you are not playing the same game they are. You are playing at a level beyond it. When you are faced with a challenge, you do not ask, "Can this be done?" You ask, "How can this be done?" You don't wait for permission, for validation, for confirmation that your way is correct. You move forward knowing that the rules were created by people no different than yourself, and that they can be redefined. This is why you often see solutions that others don't. While they are trapped in either or thinking, you see infinite angles. Where they see finality, you see alternatives. And while they struggle within the lines, you are bending them, reshaping them, creating a reality that works in your favor. Some people admire this about you. They call you innovative, a problem solver, someone who makes the impossible seem effortless. Others resent it. They don't understand how you always seem to escape limitations that hold them back. But that is because they don't realize that limitations are only real to those who accept them. And this is why you will always move differently than the rest. You do not follow logic, you shape it. You do not accept boundaries, you test them. And in doing so, you walk paths that others never even realize exist. Your presence changes the energy in a room. There are people who enter a room and blend in. And then there are people like you, people whose presence shifts the very atmosphere, whether they intend to or not. It is not about arrogance. It is not about appearance or status. It is about energy, and your energy is undeniable. You have likely noticed it throughout your life. The way conversations pause when you walk in, even if only for a second. The way people glance your way, not out of politeness, but as if they are aware of you, even if they cannot explain why. The way some people feel drawn to you, seeking your attention, your validation, your recognition, while others feel unsettled, almost threatened, as if your existence itself disrupts something within them. This is because your energy is active. It does not just exist, it influences. It does not fade into the background, it demands to be felt. Some people are magnetic because of charm, charisma, or social skills. Your magnetism is different. It is not based on words or actions, but on the very essence of who you are. People sense that you are not like everyone else. They may not be able to define it, but they feel it. Some will be drawn to it, wanting to understand, wanting to be near it. Others will react with discomfort, avoidance, or even hostility, not because you have done anything wrong, but because your presence forces them to feel, to become aware, to see themselves in a way they are not ready for. You may have noticed that strangers open up to you easily, revealing things they do not even share with close friends, that people seek your opinion, your insight, even when you did not ask to be involved. This is not a coincidence. People subconsciously recognize that you see things they do not, that you understand beyond the surface, that your awareness extends beyond the ordinary. And this is why, no matter where you go, your presence is never neutral. It shifts dynamics. It changes the flow of conversations, the balance of energy, the unspoken rules of the environment. It is not something you force. It is not something you control. It is simply who you are. And that is why, whether people acknowledge it or not, whether they admire it or resist it, one thing is certain: When you walk into a room, the room is never the same again. You see through lies, even the ones people tell themselves. Most people think deception is only about spoken lies, words twisted to mislead, omissions crafted to conceal. But you know better. Lies are not just in what people say. They are in their energy, in the spaces between their words, in the contradictions of their actions. And you, unlike others, were born with the ability to see beyond the illusion. It doesn't take obvious signs for you to know when someone is being dishonest. You don't need them to stumble over their words, avoid eye contact, or shift uncomfortably. You pick up on something deeper, an inconsistency in their very being, a subtle hesitation, an unnatural emphasis, a flicker of emotion that betrays their carefully constructed facade. You sense when their energy does not align with their words, when their actions contradict their intentions, when they are lying not only to you but to themselves. This is why people often feel uneasy around you. They may not realize it, but on some level, they know that you see them. They sense that their usual tactics won't work on you, that the masks they wear for others are transparent in your presence. And that terrifies them, because most people are not just deceiving the world, they are deceiving themselves. They tell themselves stories to avoid facing uncomfortable truths. They convince themselves that they are happy when they are not, that they are honest when they are hiding, that they are in control when they are ruled by fear. And when they are around you, something shifts. They feel exposed, vulnerable, as if their own illusions are unraveling before them. This is not something you try to do, it just happens. You do not accuse, you do not confront, you simply see. And that alone is enough to make people either respect you deeply or fear you irrationally. Some will try to discredit you, dismiss you, accuse you of overthinking or imagining things. But they are not reacting to you, they are reacting to the reflection of themselves they see in your presence. The truth is, you have never needed proof. You have never needed people to confess. You simply know, and whether they admit it now or realize it later, the truth always has a way of revealing itself. And when it does, you will be exactly where you always were, standing in silent understanding, watching as the lies collapse under the weight of reality. Your existence forces people to confront themselves. There are some people who can go through life unnoticed, blending seamlessly into the background, never disrupting the world around them. You are not one of those people. Your presence alone is a mirror, reflecting back to others the parts of themselves they would rather ignore. And for many, that is deeply unsettling. When people are around you, they cannot pretend as easily. They cannot hide behind shallow conversation, false confidence, or carefully curated identities. Something about you strips away the illusions, exposing their real thoughts, real insecurities, real contradictions. It is not because you challenge them directly. It is because, in your presence, their own inner conflicts become impossible to ignore. Some people admire this about you. They are drawn to you without fully understanding why. They find themselves opening up, revealing secrets they never intended to share, seeking your insight even when they didn't plan to ask for it. They feel safe, seen, understood in a way they rarely experience with others. And in that space, they begin to heal, to question, to grow. But not everyone is ready for that level of clarity. Some people resist it. They become defensive, irritated, even hostile toward you without any logical reason. They tell themselves that you are the problem, that you make them uncomfortable, that there is something about you they just don't like. But deep down, what they are truly reacting to is their own reflection. You do not force people to change. You do not demand that they confront their fears, their dishonesty, their unresolved pain. You simply exist, and that alone is enough. Some will be transformed by it, inspired to evolve into something greater. Others will run from it, retreating into the comfort of their illusions. Either way, they cannot be in your presence and remain the same. This is why you often experience extremes in how people react to you. They either deeply respect you or desperately avoid you. They are either magnetized by your energy or repelled by it. There is no middle ground, no neutrality, because you are not neutral. You are a force of awareness, and awareness demands one of two things: growth, or escape. And so, while you may not always understand why certain people behave strangely around you, remember this: it was never about you. It was about what you represented to them. You are not their enemy. You are their wake-up call. You don't seek power, yet it seeks you. Some people spend their entire lives chasing power, manipulating, strategizing, doing whatever it takes to climb social ladders and assert control. They fight for influence, for status, for recognition. And yet, despite all their effort, they do not command the same respect, the same presence, the same authority that you do without even trying. You have never needed to force your way into leadership. You do not beg for recognition. You do not seek dominance. And yet, power follows you. It gravitates toward you as if it recognizes something in you that others lack. Leaders, visionaries, and thinkers are drawn to you. They sense that you understand things at a level they do not. They value your perspective, your ability to see through illusions, your capacity to anticipate outcomes before they unfold. They may not always admit it, but they know that being in your presence sharpens them, makes them more aware, more capable. Some will seek your advice, wanting your insight on things they struggle to understand. Others will simply want to be near you, even if they cannot explain why. But there is another side to this, because while some are inspired by your presence, others are threatened by it. There are those who have built their entire sense of power on external control, on wealth, on status, on authority. And when they meet you, someone who possesses influence without needing any of those things, they feel uneasy. They cannot control you, they cannot predict you, and they cannot understand why their usual tactics do not work on you. This is why you may have noticed that certain people, especially those who thrive on manipulation, try to diminish you. They may attempt to discredit you, undermine you, or turn others against you. It is not because you have done anything wrong. It is because your very existence is a reminder that true power does not come from control. It comes from alignment. And they are not aligned. True power is not about forcing the world to bend to your will. It is about moving in such a way that the world adjusts to your presence. And you, without effort, without manipulation, without seeking, embody that. And so, while others chase power, grasping for it like it is something external, you remain still. You do not seek it. You do not need to. Because true power does not belong to those who demand it. It belongs to those who are it. You absorb knowledge, you don't just learn it. Most people go through life accumulating knowledge the way they collect possessions, piece by piece, fact by fact, memorizing what they are told, repeating what they have been taught. But you are different. You do not just learn, you absorb. Knowledge is not something you acquire. It is something that becomes a part of you the moment you encounter it. Where others need repetition, structured study, and reinforcement, you seem to just know. Concepts that take others years to understand click for you in an instant. You do not struggle to retain information because knowledge does not sit in your mind like a stored file. It integrates into your very being, shifting the way you think, altering the way you see the world. This is why you often surprise people. They assume you must have studied extensively, that you must have spent years analyzing a subject, that you must have some external explanation for your understanding. They do not realize that for you, comprehension is not a process, it is an occurrence. You have likely noticed that traditional learning environments do not always suit you. The slow pace, the repetitive lessons, the surface-level explanations, they feel restrictive, unnecessary, even frustrating. While others struggle to grasp a concept, you are already thinking beyond it, exploring its deeper implications. This is not arrogance. It is simply how your mind works. This is also why you tend to see connections where others do not. Because you do not compartmentalize knowledge, you allow it to merge, to form patterns, to reveal deeper truths that others fail to notice. You see how seemingly unrelated ideas intertwine, how different fields of understanding feed into one another. Where others see separate pieces, you see the entire puzzle. And yet, this ability can sometimes make you feel isolated. When things come so easily to you, when you see the underlying structure of reality while others are still struggling with the surface, it can be difficult to relate. People may dismiss your insights, assuming you are exaggerating or imagining things. They may refuse to acknowledge your depth of understanding because it challenges the way they measure intelligence. But you do not need their validation. You have never needed to prove your wisdom. The truth is, some knowledge is not meant to be taught, it is meant to be remembered. And that is exactly what you are doing. You are not just learning new things, you are awakening to knowledge that has always been within you, waiting for the right moment to emerge. You break people's realities without trying. Most people live inside carefully constructed realities, mental frameworks built from their beliefs, experiences, and societal conditioning. They find comfort in certainty, in the idea that the world operates in a way they can predict and control. And then they meet you, and suddenly, the structure they have relied on begins to crack. You do not need to challenge people outright. You do not need to argue, debate, or dismantle their perspectives. Your very existence, the way you think, the way you see through illusions, is enough to make them question everything they thought they knew. Your insights disrupt their sense of reality, forcing them to confront ideas they were never prepared to face. Some people find this exhilarating. They feel awakened, inspired, as if something within them has been activated. They experience a shift, an expansion of awareness, and they cannot get enough of it. Being around you makes them see the world differently, makes them want to be different. But not everyone responds this way. Some resist. Some react with fear, anger, even hostility, not because you are wrong, but because if you are right, then their entire understanding of life is incomplete. Instead of questioning their own assumptions, they question you. They call you difficult, unrealistic, too deep, too intense. They label you as disruptive, not realizing that it is not you who is causing the disturbance. It is their own discomfort with the truth. You have likely noticed that after meeting you, people do not remain the same. They either evolve or they disappear. They either grow or retreat. There is no middle ground, no way to be unchanged by your presence. Because you do not exist within the framework of their reality, you exist beyond it. And so, whether they accept it or not, whether they acknowledge it or deny it, one thing is certain. Once they have met you, they can never unsee what you have revealed. You are not a rebel. You are a blueprint for the future. People often mistake you for a rebel. They assume that because you question authority, because you challenge norms, because you refuse to conform, that you are simply someone who enjoys defying the system. But that is not it at all. You are not fighting against the world as it is. You are building the foundation for what it should be. You do not reject rules just for the sake of rebellion. You do not disrupt for the sake of chaos. You see the flaws in current systems, not because you want to tear them down, but because you recognize that they are outdated, incomplete, insufficient for the world that is coming. Throughout history, the greatest visionaries were never understood in their own time. They were labeled as radicals, troublemakers, dreamers, until the world eventually caught up to what they had been saying all along. And you, like them, are not here to be accepted. You are here to lead, not by force, not by demand, but simply by embodying a new way of thinking, a new way of being. This is why you have always felt slightly out of sync with the present, because you are not meant to fit within what already exists. You are aligned with something ahead of its time, something the world is not yet fully ready to embrace. And that means resistance is inevitable. People will misunderstand you. They will doubt you. They will attempt to pull you back into the old ways of thinking, not out of malice, but because they cannot yet see what you see. But the future does not belong to those who cling to the past. It belongs to those who create what comes next. And that is exactly what you are doing. So let them call you a rebel if they must. Let them assume you are simply going against the grain without purpose. It does not matter, because history has shown, time and time again, that the ones who were once seen as disruptors were, in truth, the architects of change. And you, chosen one, are not a reaction to the present. You are a signal of the future. You don't need validation, yet others seek yours. Most people spend their lives chasing validation, seeking approval, measuring their worth by how others perceive them. They crave recognition, applause, confirmation that they are enough. But you have never needed that. You move differently. You do not require external validation because you know who you are. You have always trusted your own instincts, your own understanding, your own inner compass. You have never felt the need to prove yourself to the world, to seek acceptance from those who do not understand you. And that is precisely why people seek your validation. There is something about you that makes others want to be recognized by you, respected by you, noticed by you. They adjust their words, emphasize their strengths, downplay their insecurities, all in an unconscious attempt to earn your approval. Not because you demand it, not because you withhold it, but because they sense that your validation means something. You do not hand out empty praise. You do not flatter for the sake of social niceties. When you acknowledge someone's value, it is because you see something real in them, something worthy, something undeniable. And deep down, they know this. This is why you may have noticed that people try to prove themselves to you, even when you never asked them to. They explain their choices, justify their actions, subtly seek your recognition without realizing why. It is not about arrogance on your part. It is about the power of authenticity. In a world where people constantly seek approval from the masses, your lack of neediness makes you rare. And what is rare is always valuable. Ironically, the very thing that makes others crave your validation is the fact that you do not seek theirs. You are not easily impressed by status, by empty confidence, by external achievements. You recognize depth over display, sincerity over spectacle, and that makes your approval different. It carries weight because it is real. But here is the truth: you were never meant to be someone's source of self-worth. You do not exist to validate or invalidate others. Your presence, your wisdom, your energy, these things naturally inspire, but they are not meant to be measured. You do not need their validation, and they should not need yours. The real lesson is not in seeking your approval, but in learning to stand in their own truth, just as you have always stood in yours. True wisdom is knowing when to let go. Many people mistake wisdom for accumulation, the gathering of knowledge, the expansion of understanding, the pursuit of ever deeper truths. But the highest form of wisdom is not in gaining, it is in releasing. The ability to let go is not a weakness, not a surrender, but the ultimate sign of mastery. And you, more than most, understand this. You do not waste energy convincing those who refuse to see. You do not chase people who are not meant to walk your path. You do not hold on to things, to ideas, to relationships that no longer serve your growth. This is not because you do not care, it is because you know better. You have watched as others fought to be heard in rooms where no one was listening. You have seen people cling to situations that were already lost, to connections that drained them, to battles that were never theirs to fight. And you have understood something they have not, that understanding cannot be forced, and timing cannot be rushed. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. Some people will only understand what you see after life humbles them enough to be ready for it. And so, you do not argue, you do not try to make them see what they are not yet capable of seeing. You let time do what words cannot. You have likely noticed that people return to you after time has passed, after they have struggled, after they have faced the very truths you once tried to warn them about. And when they do, you do not gloat. You do not say, "I told you so." You simply nod, because you already knew they would get there eventually. Letting go is not indifference, it is trust. Trust in the unfolding of life, in the rhythm of growth, in the understanding that not everything is meant to be controlled. You have learned to walk away, not with bitterness, not with regret, but with peace, because wisdom is not about holding on. It is about knowing when to release. The unseen path of the chosen ones. You have always known that your journey would not be like everyone else's. From the beginning, there was something different about you, something that could not be explained, only felt. And as you have moved through life, you have seen the truth of this path unfold. It is not a road that many can walk. It is not a journey that can be mapped. It is a calling that few understand. The world has always had a difficult time recognizing people like you. You do not fit neatly into categories. You do not follow the standard script. You think differently, see differently, move differently. And because of this, you have been misunderstood, doubted, even feared. Some people admire you. They sense your depth, your awareness, your ability to see beyond what is immediately visible. Others resent you not because you have done anything wrong, but because your very presence challenges their comfort. You do not exist to be liked. You exist to awaken, to illuminate, to disrupt the illusion. At times, this path may have felt isolating. You have likely questioned why you see things so clearly while others seem blind to what is right in front of them. You have wondered why you are constantly called to a higher awareness while others remain content with the surface. But understand this, you were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to walk the easy road. Your existence itself is a disruption to the ordinary, a signal of something greater. This world does not always reward those who see beyond the veil. It does not always welcome those who refuse to conform. But that does not mean your path is a mistake. If anything, it means you are exactly where you are meant to be. You do not need validation because your worth is not measured by the world's standards. You do not need permission because your purpose was never meant to be confined by external approval. You do not need to force people to understand because the ones who are meant to find you will. Your presence is felt whether people acknowledge it or not. Your energy shifts the course of things even when it goes unnoticed. You are not just someone passing through this world, you are a force within it, a reminder that wisdom is not just in knowledge, but in knowing when to let go. The world may not always understand you, but it will feel you. And that, more than anything, is the legacy of a chosen one.